Konnichiwa, bitches. To the commish coming at you with a live edition of the Ultimate Man's League podcast. The draft is only a couple weeks away. Connor and I are going to give you a deep depth chart dive. How you doing, Connor?
Doing fantastic, Doug.
Awesome.
Actually, I just got stung by a wasp for the first time in about, I think, maybe 10 years. So that's pretty great.
How was that?
It was, at first I was like, what is happening to me? And then I realized, oh my God, I've felt this before. I've got stung by a wasp.
Good. Serves you right.
Yeah.
So today's podcast, we're going to mainly focus on the depth chart. We're going to go division by division, team by team, and give you kind of the skinny on the wide receiver situation, the running back situation, if relevant, tight end battles, all that kind of stuff. If you have a question, please ask it in the Facebook UML chat, and we will answer it live on air.
Yes, we'd love questions. Give us some questions.
And if you ask enough questions, maybe we'll do a little mock draft here later on. All right. So without further ado, we're actually going to not do the screen today unless people really want that for a visual. You can follow along the depth charts at ourlads, OURLADS.com/NFL depth chart. We're going to start here with the New England Patriots. Why don't you tell us about their quarterback situation, Connor?
Well, they've got this guy by the name of Tom Brady. I'm not sure if you're aware, but he's been pretty all right for a while. I think their situation revolving around his wide receivers is a little weird right now, but they always have this problem, and they always come through. Belichick's schemes always work, so Tom Brady's going to have another fantastic year, I assume. Will it be his last? I don't know, though.
Yeah, for sure. And if he gets hurt, you're avoiding every Patriot not named Rob Gronkowski like the plague, right? I mean, we don't want any of these guys if he's hurt.
I would say with Hoyer there is probably the backup. I think it could be serviceable. But I think he's definitely going to have – it's probably just going to be Gronk you want. And then the wide receivers would probably be fodder by that point. But I don't think he'll do terrible if Tom Brady were to go down. But it's not going to help you too much.
Speaking of the wide receiver group, this is a rough group. We just saw that they released Malcolm Mitchell, or waived him, I guess, because there's apparently a difference. They waived Malcolm Mitchell, who – last time we saw him play was really good, but it's been a real long time. It was the 28-3 game last time we saw him. The rest of this receiving group is kind of brutal. Julian Edelman is suspended, great slot player. Chris Hogan does what he does as that kind of, field stretcher role. Yeah. And then Cordero Patterson is there for special teams. They signed Eric Decker, but who knows how much he's got left. And Kenny Britt. I know how you feel about Kenny Britt. So is there any of these guys, like anyone on this team that you can see be having maybe some late round value, or is this kind of those, maybe Hogan, maybe Edelman, and that's kind of it?
Well, I think there's one name you forgot that is a little interesting to me. That's Philip Dorsett. I feel like he kind of fell off the face of the earth when he signed with them. And I think he may be one of the guys to benefit, at least for the first 4 weeks until Julian Edelman makes it back. But honestly, I think it's just a complete toss-up. I'm sure a lot of these guys will get drafted late, but that's just because they're playing for the New England Patriots. The system's going to have somebody getting you yards. Tom Brady isn't just going to stop throwing the ball because there isn't any options. I think it's basically going to be Decker until Edelman gets back, and then who knows if he's even going to be.
Yeah, 32 years old, coming off an ACL. He's far from a guarantee.
So I mean, it's a total. What I'd say Chris Hogan is the strongest player on the roster to get the same thing he already has shown. He's the only kind of not wild card, but again, he's always injury prone. So I think it's whatever guy you feel is the right guy, go for it maybe. But I think I'd stay away.
And you see Braxton Berrios is one of their wide receivers, is a rookie. They took in the 6th round out of Miami. If you want a white receiver that plays for the Patriots, that's the guy, I guess. But he's not even guaranteed to make the team. So,
yeah, I definitely watch out for him in some of these upcoming games for the preseason. I think he might be something to watch.
Carlo wants to know who is the running back to own in New England. What do you think, Connor?
It's got to be Michelle. I just don't. They've spent first round capital on him, and I just think he's going to get probably at least the first 2 downs of work guaranteed. Burkhead's probably going to shuffle that up a little bit, and James White's going to come in for 2-minute drives and certain situations like that. But I just don't see how he's not utilized constantly. Although I did just see there was a injury scare for him.
Yeah, but if you remember last year, Mike Gillislee had an injury in training camp and missed some time and still got a good workload at the beginning of the season. So as long as he can come back from the injury, Michel should be okay. We've seen Belichick go back to that. I mean, if Sony Michel is good at football, he should outplay these guys. I mean, Rex Burkhead is a nice backup running back. James White does his thing very, very well, but Jeremy Lee and Mike Gillislee are not good, and only one of them is going to make the team. We'll see who, but Sony Michel definitely is the one I'd like to have the most. If we're factoring in where they're going to go in the UML draft, it gets a little closer, but I'd rather spend a first-round pick on Michel than a third-round pick on Burkhead.
Yeah, I think Burkhead, unfortunately, is not a value in this year's draft. From where
hurt, by the way. So that is a thing there. So hopefully that answers your question there, Carlo. And Doug Sr., we will get to that Colts question when we get to the Colts a little bit later. All right. So why don't we move on to the New York Football Jets, Connor? What do you see happening there? What is happening at quarterback? That's probably the most interesting thing on this team.
Yeah, I think with the lateness of that contract signing for Darnold, I think it's really going to put his arrival date a bit further along in the season, or maybe not even this season. I think having the decision between Bridgewater and McCown, although is Bridgewater fully healthy yet still, or is that still not a thing?
They say he looks good in practice.
Yeah? Okay. Well, I think it's going to be a battle between those two guys to start with, but I think Darnold will jump whoever loses out to start the season, and it's just going to be however long they can go. I assume they're not going to win a lot of games, so I'm sure at least halfway through the season, I think Darnold will show up by then.
There's a game they play on one of my podcasts where they go through all of the rookie quarterbacks and they decide what holiday will he be starting by. So what holiday will Sam Darnold be starting by?
I'm gonna say right after Thanksgiving, maybe.
Right after Thanksgiving, I'm gonna say he's starting by Halloween.
You think so?
I really think that. I think they might end up trading Teddy Bridgewater. Josh McCown will get hurt. I think he's made at least one start before Halloween.
I personally would love to see him sit out the whole year if I were to draft him, though, because I think he really needs a year on the bench.
Yeah, kind of like a Patrick Mahomes type situation.
Yeah.
That said, as far as fantasy utility, these are all QB2s no matter who's starting. So
yeah,
just keep that in mind. The running back situation is a little murky. Bilal Powell's supposed to be a good pass catching back, but he didn't really catch anything last year. Isaiah Crowell, they signed off from Cleveland and brought in Thomas Rawls from Seattle. Their offensive line isn't very good. Are they going to be able to run the football with any of these guys?
Well, the thing that interests me is Elijah McGuire ended up going down, and he's going to be out for a month. Mm-hmm. And there's an immediate search now for more running backs. I think they brought in Alfred Morris to name someone, and then a couple more. So that makes me feel like they are really the front office is kind of. I think they're starting to give up on Powell after they've loved him for so long. To me, so I think that Powell might not see a lot of time compared to the past few years. I think Crowell is really the guy to own here. I think he's going to get a majority of the carries. It's going to be rough going, and you're going to have. I think whoever's going to be playing, they're going to get stuffed at the line on 3/4 of their runs, but a guy like Crowell could easily break one off for, a 40-yard touchdown randomly in a game, I think. So I think Crowell's probably the guy to own, but it is rough going for the Jets.
Yeah, and as Carlo mentions in the Facebook chat, all these guys are available in the draft. So you can get if you like one of these guys, he's available to you. You just got to decide when you need to take him. At wide receiver,
kind of reminds me of that one year with the Rams where it was Stacy and
Oh, Trey
Steve and all
Mason.
that. It was kind of like one of these guys is gonna get a lot of reps, but yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Rawls is anything to worry about if you're a fan of one of these other guys.
Yeah.
He guy can't stay healthy, which is a shame. At wide receiver, yikes. Robbie Anderson, I don't think has been suspended yet, but Jermaine Kearse is a solid player, I guess. Terrell Pryor is coming off a horrible season with the Redskins. Quincy Newton was coming off a terrible leg injury. Ardarius Stewart is suspended the first 3 or 4 games, can't remember which. Yikes, to say the least. Is there any receiver you are looking at on the Jets to have any sort of fantasy utility, or are we just using Jermaine Kearse on some bye weeks and that's it?
Well, Anunwa has always had a nice rep with this offense, so I'd like to see him come back after that injury last year and maybe do a little something. I think Pryor, what we saw from the Redskins is what's going to be. I don't think we're going to see Pryor return to any kind of form, especially not with this offense. He's not going to be able to. And I mean, Robbie Anderson, if he isn't going to get suspended, he could be a value potentially. But I almost think that because Anunwa's back, because Kearse was able to do what he did last season, and because Robbie Anderson had a breakout end of the year, it almost kind of ruins their value because they'll all get a little piece of the cut now instead of having one guy kind of stand out for a part of the year.
Yeah.
So it kind of just ruins them all by all of them being adequate wide receivers that don't really break into, wide receiver 2 talk. So, I mean, I think they're all bye week filler guys. Maybe Anderson's a little more than that, but that's pretty much what they are.
Fair enough. And tight end we kind of skipped over with the Patriots because they're so good. We can probably skip over this group too because they're so bad. Fair.
Yeah, I don't really even know.
You want no Jets tight end on your team. Moving on.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that.
I mean, I'm sure those guys will get picked up in the bye weeks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Miami Dolphins, Ryan Tannehill returns as the starting quarterback. Is available in the draft. If you need a QB2, you could do worse than him. He does offer you a little bit of running upside, although he is coming off a pretty significant knee injury. If he goes down, Brock Osweiler has shown the ability to keep fantasy wide receivers relevant in the past. I'm not super worried about him. At running back, how much of an inconvenient truth will Frank Gore be to Kenyon Drake's upside?
Well, with the first depth charts coming out and seeing that they're tied as the RB1, it seems like it's going to be a hot hand kind of situation. I think Frank Gore is showing once again that he just does not age. And with the way we've seen Miami operate these past couple of years, they seem determined not to let one running back be the lead back. I mean, they had Williams coming in to spell last year for Drake, and I mean, Drake was 3 times as good as him, but they still used him anyway for some strange reason. So I think Frank Gore is going to do exactly that. He's going to eat up a lot of Drake's potential touchdown carries.
It's kind of one of those situations where we're gonna, I think, be left wanting to know how good Kenyon Drake is because Frank Gore's just going to get in the way, and he's been doing it for like 10 years in the NFL. Kalen Ballage was a 4th-round pick that they drafted. Big, powerful guy. I don't see him having much utility unless there's an injury to Gore.
To go to a question that was asked, my dad asked, what are some keepers or what are some rookies that I should be looking for? I think this could be a good example. I think Ballage is kind of a later round guy. My dad doesn't have a lot of high picks. He could throw a dart at him. Maybe he's got the kind of mentality where, Frank Gore's going to be gone by next year, I would assume, or maybe I think he said he was going to retire after this year, didn't he?
I don't know if he said that exactly, but I mean, he's got to, right?
Yes. And so I think, and depending on Drake's health and what they choose to do with him, Ballage could potentially be a starter in the future. I think he's an intriguing rookie. So I'd say for my dad, there's one guy to look at, but potentially with where his picks are.
Interesting piece of trivia about Frank Gore. He was drafted during the Bush administration. So, wide receiver, they have a lot of guys here. Danny Amendola comes over from New England. Devontae Parker finally gets his shot to be that number 1 wide receiver. Kenny Stills is a number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. That's what he is, what he has been, and will most likely continue to be. You see, they brought in Albert Wilson from Kansas City, who, if you watched, I ended up, because I owned Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill, I ended up watching a lot of Chiefs games last year, and Albert Wilson can make some plays for you. I don't know how much use he'll have for fantasy, but I think he's a good, talented player.
Yeah, I kind of low key love what Miami did with the wide receiver core this season, even though they lost out on their superstar Landry. Um, I think all four of these players, Stills, Parker, Amendola, and Wilson, are like really great. Like bravo for you, Pat. You got one thing to be happy about maybe on the Miami depth chart this year.
Offensive line's not bad either, by the way.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm excited to see who stands out. I think I've heard raves about Amendola in the slot this year. They're talking about in camp. He's looking really good there if he stays healthy. And I mean, Wilson can totally fill that in or play somewhere else easily beyond that. Yeah, I think it's a cool core. I'm not sure how much playing time they'll all get together, but there's definitely some potential there.
Carlo asks, is there a Miami tight end worth owning? And the answer is yes. It's Mike Gesicki. He's been getting really good reports out of camp. Guy can't block, okay? He is a move tight end. This is a pass-catching option. They spent a second-round pick on him. If you're looking at the depth chart, A.J. Derby, Gavin Escobar, there's nobody on the roster to really challenge him for those targets. That said, he isn't a blocker, isn't going to be on the field all that much, and rookie tight ends, generally speaking, don't have a whole lot of fantasy utility. But if you're a tight end needy team, which Carlo is, Mike Gesicki is a good target for you in the middle rounds.
I agree. I thought out of pure athletic talent in the draft, he was one of the best tight ends for that. I'm excited to see him play. Obviously, he's a rookie, so he's going to have that. Unless you're Ingram, you're going to have that first year kind of dud year. But I think he's a good guy to own for the future.
For sure, for sure. And their kicker is Jason Sanders, a rookie. So you probably don't want the Dolphins kicker this year. Buffalo's depth chart. First things first, who the hell's going to be their quarterback, Connor?
I think it's going to be McCarron, I think, to start the year. I think if they throw Josh Allen out there immediately, they're going to just destroy him. And I as much as I don't believe in him as the future, I at least think they should give him a real shot I should at least give him a real shot to sorry, my dad just did something behind my back. Josh Allen is not that great to me, but I think they should use McCarron at first and then kind of work him in, and maybe he'll be something. I'm not sure that he is, though.
Yeah. I think we're probably going to see all these guys at one point or another.
Peterman, I don't even know why he's on the roster still.
There's talk that he's still in the mix for that week 1 starting job.
Ugh.
I mean, God, if you want a guy that's going to throw 5 picks and a half, you can just go get Johnny Manziel, honestly. But this Bills offense, I'm not, just in general, I'm not super optimistic about. They lost their 3 best offensive linemen. Eric Wood retired because of injury. Richie Incognito retired to go be a full-time douche off the field. And they traded Cordy Glenn to Cincinnati, move up to get Josh Allen. So I'm not sure this is going to be a great offense, especially with this. I guess we'll segue into running backs. This whole LaShawn McCoy situation. We haven't really heard much about it. It kind of, I said on the previous podcast that I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was guilty of what he's accused of. Kind of doesn't seem like he is. It's hard to say. That said, Chris Ivory could be good if he's pressed into a full-time role. We know Traveris Cadet can catch some passes for you. And they're looking into bringing some other guys. This would be a great spot for
some more New Orleans ex-running backs, basically.
Yeah, basically. I hear I hear Tim Hightower's available too. So this Bills running backs, if McCoy is suspended, Carlo, you'll probably want to draft Ivory in the later rounds just to kind of cover your ass. But we're not drafting Cadet, I think, even if McCoy gets suspended. At wide receiver, obviously the big news this week is that they traded for Corey Coleman, a 2027. Now, Corey Coleman definitely fell out of favor in Cleveland, but this is a team this Bills team is a team that needs wide receivers. Kelvin Benjamin's a decent red zone option, and the rest of these guys, I guess, play in the NFL. Malachi Dupree, Jeremy Curley is still kicking around. This is not a good receiving core. And to your point, Connor, I think this is a great reason to keep Josh Allen out of the lineup as long as possible.
Yeah.
It's going to get killed.
One thing, as great as that, or as awful as that trade was for Cleveland, I'm still. I guess they really didn't like him. I love the report that came out immediately today following this trade, where Callaway, their beloved new rookie, just got caught with marijuana possession. So,
which was a big concern for him coming out of Miami.
Yeah.
That he was immature, that he's another Josh Gordon. Tight ends, Charles Clay's owned by Ray. He's an every week start tight end in this league just because he's a starting tight end that doesn't suck. Logan Thomas, we saw some flashes, the former quarterback. Keep an eye on him, I guess, if something happens to Clay. But I'd be surprised if I personally owned a single Buffalo Bill this year.
They're kind of the Jets of last season to me.
Yeah, like if you told me the Bills have the first pick next year, I believe you. But they just have a really bad roster.
Yeah.
Moving on, let's switch over to the Indianapolis Colts. Get that question answered for old Doug Sr. Andrew Luck, by all reports, is healthy.
They seem to say so. There is video of him throwing finally, so it seems like he's going to be back this season. I want to see him in a preseason game potentially, but that would really make me feel at ease.
Once I see him on an NFL field making an NFL throw, I will have no more worries about him. But until that happens, Adams can kind of help with him too, just sitting in that number 2 spot. You're not going to throw him back for nothing, but you can't really trade him. Jacoby Brissett is a really good young backup quarterback, and Brad Kaya also plays NFL football. At running back, we had a question. I'm going to get the exact wording of the question right about Marlon Mack. Do we see him holding on to the starting position, or do you see a running back by committee for the Colts? I think this is one of the things everyone's trying to figure out: who's the Colts running back to own, who's the Colts running back to own. I think it's going to be a committee. What are your thoughts, Connor?
I think it's going to be committee and kind of I think it'll be interesting, though. I think Marlon Mack will definitely have a role to himself. It's just with the way if Luck is not back and if this team still continues to struggle, I don't think their defense could be solved in one draft. So it's still going to be pretty bad defense.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be down, and the problem with that is Marlon Mack is going to be used when they're not down. I think Hines will be the guy who's going to be thrown in if they aren't using him in wide receiver sets.
Well, I mean, Mack has got like a complete running back skill set. He caught, I believe, a lot of passes in college. Let me get the exact stats. But why don't you? It sounds like you like Hines more than Jordan Wilkins.
I would say at this moment I like Hines more, but I like it also because there's a potential for him to play other positions, and that always ends up being a good thing for fantasy.
Carlos asking Hines, or I'm assuming that's Sony Michel, and that's Sony Michel not close.
Yeah, no. I mean, Hines is an interesting, fun kind of late round pick kind of guy, but
the dude's like 5'8", 180. He's not.
Yeah. He's never going to be a lead back or anything like that.
No, I think his best case scenario for his career is probably like a James White. I think would be a really a good comp for him. In 3 years in college, 21 catches, 16 catches, 28 catches, in obviously 12 games in each of those. That's not nothing. Definitely think he can provide some pass catching, and it's really, I think, going to be a function of how good the Colts themselves are as a team. Because if the Colts are winning, and Marlon Mack's getting the job done in what I would imagine would be an unspectacular fashion, then I don't think they're going to see any reason to get away from him. Robert Turbin is still there. I know he's hurt or whatever. Go away. Go away, Robert Turbin. Just go.
And I mean, Christine Michael's still there too, right? They got both the old Seattle backs that were supposed to be amazing.
I think so. Christine Michael, though, well, watch him just be like a top 10 running back this year.
That's what we say every year, right?
Yeah, right. Because we've seen the talent. It just never comes to fruition. Tight ends: Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron. They're both owned anyway, but I think both of Michel's sons should temper their expectations for those tight ends.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, but we did see a few years ago, Andrew Luck threw, I think, 8 touchdowns a pop to both Kobe Fleener and Dwayne Allen. And these guys are at least as good as those guys. So who knows? At wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton is great. Ryan Grant had that really weird situation earlier in the offseason where he like signed a contract with the Ravens, and then the Raiders cut Michael Crabtree. And then the Ravens were basically like, just kidding, you failed your physical, even though the dude's healthy. That seemed really kind of fishy to me.
Yeah, he gets screwed over there.
Yeah, Chester Rogers is the third-year wide receiver that's getting a lot of pop out of camp. Is he going to have any utility, or is this one of those like, he'll be receiver as the offense goes?
I think he'll have the role to begin with, but I really think those rookies are going to. One of them has to make an impact at some point during the season.
Referring to wide receivers Darius Fountain and Deion Kane,
yes,
5th and 6th round picks.
What's interesting for that is I think that with both of them on that team, it's another really it's like a toss-up late round pick, whichever one you like more. I think having both of them there really hurt. If it was just one of those two guys drafted, I think it would have been a really, really popular late pick. But with both of them there, we'll see how it rolls.
For sure. That'll do it for the Colts. And keep the questions coming, fellas. We love answering them. We will move on to the Houston Texans, who low-key have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. The quarterback position, Deshaun Watson, coming off that injury. What do you expect from him?
I think he'll be fine with today's medical science. I don't see any reason why he can't come back in full form. He's still so young too. I think he'll make a comeback. If he goes down again, then maybe we should start to worry. But as of right now, I don't really see any serious worry with him. And I think he's not going to put up necessarily the numbers he did in that small scale from last season. But I think he's going to show that he's a really great fantasy quarterback for at least fantasy. And I think he's definitely a huge value to have in the team. Obviously, he's already owned, but. Let's hope he stays healthy because we don't want to see Brandon Weeden again.
Right, and not for nothing. I mean, he made some electrifying plays. Like if you watch football, he's a good player. But not for nothing, he did throw a lot of interceptions last year. He took a lot of sacks he maybe shouldn't have. He fumbled the ball a lot, and obviously there's a torn ACL. The offensive line sucks, so they're probably not going to be able to run the football. Well, I mean, there's reasons to believe that Deshaun Watson could have a little bit of a sophomore slump in a similar way that Dak Prescott did, not so much that Robert Griffin III did. Just bear that in mind. At running back, you got Lamar Miller there, Deontay Foreman, who is not healthy, and then Tyler Ervin, who's more of a kick returner. Is Lamar Miller going to low-key be a really good value in this draft?
Well, I think one of the things that you just said that really hurts his value is that line is not going to be good. So with that line not being good, I think it's a huge problem for Miller because I think he really needs that to succeed. I think he's definitely going, as long as Deontay Foreman still isn't looking back to his form, I think he's going to be the only guy to really throw out there. I mean, maybe Alfred Blue will come in or whoever will end up winning the job.
Speaking of guys who need to go away.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Foreman's got every opportunity in the world if he's able to come back at some point this season to full form. But until that time, Miller's kind of like a Crowell situation. He's not going to be pretty, but he can get you, average weeks every week and probably finish in the top 20 if he plays all year long.
And we are up to 4 viewers. Check it out. Anyway, at wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, the name, the game. He's like a top 3 wide receiver, top 4 wide receiver, however you want to look at it. Will Fuller was absolutely ridiculous last year with Deshaun Watson. I think he had something like 5 catches for 14 touchdowns somehow. All the dude did was catch touchdowns. Are any of these other guys even a little interesting? I know they drafted Kiki QT in the 4th round, but he's more of a kick returner type specialist. Is there anyone on here that's piquing your fancy?
I really think it's set in stone that it's going to be Hopkins and Fuller. Bruce Ellington's always been a kind of interesting name. But I just don't see, especially with how much they use their two tight end sets, I don't see, and well, although they will need to block a lot more this season, I think. But I just don't see anybody standing out besides Fuller or Hopkins. I think they're going to kind of pretty much demand all of the touches.
Yeah, Braxton Miller flashed a little bit in preseason last year, but he struggled with some soft tissue injuries last year. If you told me that Braxton Miller, worked his way into some like low end wide receiver 3 utility in the second half of the season, I might believe you. But you're not drafting somebody for that kind of production. So, you want no Houston Texans tight ends?
I actually have the pleasure to own some. I think it was either last season or the year before when an injury struck, and I do think that the whatever top tight end of that week is playing is definitely a good value. I think it may come down to waiver wire pickups for these tight ends, but there's definite value there. I think the problem is Anderson and Griffin are both premier athletes, and they both go down with injuries constantly. So it's kind of like you'd have to draft both to get that value, and that's just not worth it. So I'd say they're really good waiver flyers, but there's definitely points to be had there, but it's just so risky that you're better off just waiting until the waiver.
Carlo asks that we mocked Lamar Miller going in the mid-third round last pod. Do we still believe that? I'd say yeah. I think he'll still probably end up going around there.
He's going to be that guy that the person sighs and says, I mean, yeah, I got to go with him. What else is there?
Yeah, I mean, mid-third round also is like pick 20. So that's, it's not that serious. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans. Is Marcus Mariota good?
I think he's good. I think this could be another year for him to improve upon himself. I think as long as he doesn't go down with scary injuries, he seems like he's progressing in the right direction. I mean, they made the playoffs last year when they probably shouldn't have, and I think a lot of that had to do with him. But I think it definitely helps the offense out. I think without him, and if you put Blaine Gabbert, I mean, obviously, if you put Blaine Gabbert out there, this team takes a massive hit. I think he's pretty much the heart of this team.
Yeah, that's for true. At running back, Derrick Henry, Deion Lewis. I think that's going to be a pretty true split there. Unfortunately for my fantasy team. But is there anyone to look at if something happens to one of those guys, or do you think if one of them goes down, they'll just kind of be a feature back?
Yeah, I really don't see anybody. I mean, the rookies they got, I'm not really familiar too much with. I don't think they have anything that's going to – nobody
Are you
that's
telling me you're not familiar with Akram Wadley and Jalen Dawkins?
I'm afraid not. But, yeah, I think especially if Lewis, who seems the more likely to get injured, goes down, I think Derrick Henry's got the backfield to himself. I mean, maybe they'll bring back what's his name out of retirement now, but I think that honestly
shut your filthy mouth. At tight end, Delaney Walker is kind of the ageless wonder. He's still putting up numbers, but Jonnu Smith is a guy that a lot of people have a lot of high hopes for. He had a play last year where he caught a screen pass and made a couple guys miss and powered his way into the end zone. Really impressive show of athleticism. But when you have Delaney Walker playing in front of you, you're not going to get a whole lot of reps. Kind of his own Frank Gore, kind of like his own former teammate. Jonnu Smith, if you're looking for a young tight end, round.
I think my dad should be celebrating because Delaney Walker just signed a 2-year, pretty fat contract, and I think that pretty much sums up that even though Jonnu Smith looks really good, they're totally satisfied with Walker, and they're going to use him for at least the next year.
Carlo, talk about Corey Davis. Corey Davis is an American professional football wide receiver who plays for the Tennessee Titans. That's talking about Corey Davis. What do you think about Corey Davis this year? We saw some flashes. The guy can play. Is he going to be on the field? Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to live up to the hype?
I think this is his year to prove it. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't have every full opportunity to become a superstar this year if that's what he's supposed to be. I think he's bit of a risky pick, but everything points to him going to have a breakout year, I would think. Unless he's not as good as people say he is, I guess.
I think he's definitely a second-round pick in the UML, depending on where he goes. I mean, I guess he could maybe hang around to the beginning of the third. But if that happens, AJ, make sure you draft him. Corey Davis, I think he's got all the tools to be a starting wide receiver for fantasy. That said, if this Rashard Matthews situation doesn't clarify, Corey Davis is going to have a great season. Rashard Matthews is is he on the PUP list, or is he just doing light practice? Do we know for sure?
I don't know for sure.
Well, Rashard Matthews is he's good player, kind of reminds me of like a Nate Washington or Nate Burleson when they were playing. Kind of like one of those receivers that like no one ever wants to draft, but like he's 80 catches and 900 yards every single year.
Yep.
And he's just a good player. Second year player Tywan Taylor has looked according to all the reports that I've read. One was the star of camp the other day, I think is the report I read. Not sure there's that many balls this team is going to want to run the ball, but he could work himself into some later round utility, I think, as well.
Speaking of star of camp, the other guy sitting there, Sharp. Whatever happened to that guy, huh?
Yeah, remember that from 2 years ago?
He ever going to come? I just don't think their offense works that way. I think Corey Davis has every opportunity to demand the ball pretty much 24/7, and they'll use Delaney Walker, and then Matthews gets his chunk, and that's pretty much how they operate.
And you'll see Michael Campanaro listed pretty high in their depth chart. He's a kick returner. Don't trip over him. He shouldn't be picked up in the UML. Now we'll go to the team that many are picking to win the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's amazing saying that, isn't it, Doug?
Yeah, right. after all those years, thunk it. Blake Bortles is owned anyway, but he's a QB2, I guess, and you don't want any part of Cody Kessler. Leonard Fournette and TJ Yeldon are both owned by Tim. Is Yeldon the guy to own, or is it Corey Grant?
I think it's still Yeldon. I think Yeldon showed last season that he's totally – I mean, not long ago he was supposed to be their running back of the future. Mm-hmm. I think they still like him. I think he's definitely the backup, in my opinion.
The thing about TJ Yeldon is he's one of those running backs that does everything well but nothing amazing, which actually makes him a perfect backup running back. I think if I'm having to start somebody when Fournette's healthy, I'd rather probably start Grant because Grant's got that speed and he could rip off an 80-yard run on his one carry he gets. But if I'm handcuffing, I'm probably going with Yeldon.
Right.
But I think Grant would have some a little bit more utility if Fournette went down, and I think they'd maybe have a true split between Yeldon and Grant. A lot.
Kind of like a Redskins backfield situation.
Yeah, Corey Grant though, if anyone's gonna draft him, do it late. He might do absolutely nothing. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. Tight end, they went out and they signed Austin Seferian Jenkins, who might not be a better football player than Mercedes Lewis, but he's definitely a better pass catcher. That should be a nice little thing for Blake Bortles there. He's owned. We won't spend too much time. You don't want any of their other tight ends, by the way.
Yeah, I'm fan of that. And they don't necessarily throw the ball to the tight end too much. I think with Jenkins there now, he may be enticed to throw it more there, but he's definitely been more of a wide receiver favoritism kind of quarterback.
For sure. They also signed Andrew Norwell away from Joe's Panthers, who was like a top 5 guard in Pro Football Focus last year. I'm not going to pretend to know what makes offensive linemen better than other offensive linemen. Not exactly what makes them better, but Andrew Norwell gets good grades from Pro Football Focus, and that offensive line was good last year. It's only gotten better, presumably. I think they're going to be able to run the football pretty well. So I think Leonard Fournette, if healthy, and if he can, by the way, get some like vision on the field, the dude runs into the back of his offensive lineman way too often. Wide receiver, yikes. Yeah. There's a lot of guys here. Who do you like?
Lee. I like Lee. I'd say he's the only one I'm sure of. The rest of them, I could see Moncrief. I could see Westbrook. I'm not too excited about their choice in DJ Shark. I think Lee's the only guy that I touch, which he's owned. But I think this is kind of like I guess in a weird way, a New England situation where there's definitely going to be points to be had here at some point. I just don't know which guy it's going to be.
Yeah, I think Chark is more of a dynasty play. Kevin, that might be a guy to look at in the later
Yeah.
rounds to try to get a guy. I mean, he is like 6'3" or 6'4" and ran like a 4.3 something. The guy is a great athlete.
If he had gone to a different team, it could have been a whole different story about Shark.
Right, but I mean, he's also very raw. So look out for him. Rashad Green's a little slot option. You'll probably see him catch, a bunch of balls in one random game and then never do anything again. D.D. Westbrook, if he's consistent, he's probably the most talented receiver on this team.
I see a lot of guys that are going to be the first waiver claim after their really good week. Mm-hmm. That's just going to burn you the rest of the season.
Yeah, this is a really there will be a couple of useful wide receivers here, but keep in mind how many good fantasy receivers is Blake Bortles going to support? I mean, just bear that in mind. Tread carefully. Keelan Cole also had some good games last year. Looking for a cheap option.
I will say they have a really good knack of finding like undrafted,
just random wide receivers.
Yeah.
Let's take a trip up north to the Baltimore Ravens. When is Lamar Jackson going to take that job from Joe Flacco? What holiday?
I don't think it might not be this year, honestly. He looks pretty rough. And I mean, it's only been one preseason game for
but he looked rough.
Couple minutes. Yeah, I think he's definitely. I mean, I knew he was probably out of the rookies this season, the one that needed the most time. Mm-hmm. But he really looks like he needs more time.
So looks like a great athlete, though.
And I mean, they're still playing Flacco some pretty big bucks for the moment. I mean, not at this point. There's been better contracts, but they're still paying him a decent amount of money. I think we're going to see Flacco the whole year. I really do now. I wasn't thinking that way before, but now I
am. Carlo wants to know, is Hayden Hurst the best rookie tight end? Well, he's probably the best rookie tight end on the Ravens. They did draft Oklahoma.
He did look good, too, in the game.
He caught the Lamar Jackson's touchdown. One thing to note about Hayden Hurst, he is an older rookie, so he's played a lot of football. He turns 25 before the start of the season. So he's going to get every opportunity to start there, but they have a lot of highly drafted players. Max Williams was picked a few years ago in the second round. He's still there. They like Nick Boyle as more of a blocking option, and they spent a third round pick this year on Mark Andrews. So there's a lot of tight ends in that room, but I think they're going to give Hayden Hurst every opportunity to succeed. And if I had to pick a tight end that's going to be the best this year, it's probably him among the rookies.
I would say for Joe Flacco there, I think Hurst is more of Flacco's speed than Andrews. I think Hurst is I would assume he's a better kind of possessional kind of wide tight end, right?
Yeah, he's more down the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Andrews is definitely your more vertical threat. If you're looking for young tight ends, though, both of these guys, I think you can see.
Yeah, they're both going to be used.
I think you could.
Max Williams doesn't do anything special this year.
Yeah, I think Max Williams. He might not even make the team.
Yeah, they got to cut somebody here.
Those injuries and stuff, I think, really hurt him. I liked him as a rookie too, but Mark Andrews in like the 17th, 18th round, you could do a hell of a lot worse. Like draft him there, cut him for your kicker, and then maybe keep him for next year. See how things shake out.
See, there's another one, Dad, for you for your question. Andrews late could be a nice future replacement for what the hell's his name?
And
Walker, Delaney Walker.
And Tim, we'll get to your Josh Gordon question when we get to the Browns here in a second. At wide receiver, Brashad Perriman sucks, by the way. If anybody was wondering, that dude is brutal. That pick that RG3 threw in the preseason game, 100% on Brashad Perriman. Literally hit him directly in the palms of both his hands, and he dropped it, and it got intercepted. Dude sucks at football. His dad was a pretty good NFL receiver for the Lions back in the day, and he apparently didn't watch any of his games because the dude sucks. Okay. Brashad Perriman should not be drafted under any circumstances by anybody. What about these other guys, though?
Well, I think it's kind of like this team. A lot of this team is like redemption moment here.
Mm-hmm.
Like John Brown's trying to show that he can still play a full season, and if he can, he's really good. Snead's kind of just fell off the face of the earth after last season, being a complete dumbass, I guess. And he could easily step back into something. Crabtree, I think he's got this locked for being the wide receiver one. But those other guys, there's potential there. I just don't know if it's going to work out. And honestly, with the Ravens offense, it's not really giving me a lot of hope. But I think both those guys are capable of stepping it up, and they could put up points.
Additionally, has there ever been a more Joe Flacco receiver than Michael Crabtree? Late career Michael Crabtree. You just know he'll be good. I think Ray's got him kept, so he'll be a good starter for Ray. But obviously, it all begins and ends with running backs here in our league. Carlo wants to know is if Alex Collins is on the board at 8, as a contending team, does Carlo draft Alex Collins or take a swing on a rookie? I think it depends on the rookie is the easiest answer to that question.
Yeah, that's the easy answer. I definitely think it's an option he should be thinking about, especially for his team with the great wide receivers he has. He doesn't need, a guy putting up, 30-point games. He just needs a guy to get you at least 15 into the 20 range. And I think Alex Collins is a really nice fit for that. And I think if he were to do that, he could still take his, maybe upside potential later and double up and get Kenneth Dixon late. I think that's something he could totally pull off and wouldn't be that bad of a move for him at that spot.
Yeah, Alex Collins did have the fumbling problem last year, though. Would be my only concern with him as who knows how long that leash is. Kenneth Dixon is back healthy. They still have Javorius Allen and then somebody named Gus Edwards, who sounds like a guy that's going to get cut more than anyone I've ever heard of in my life. Buck Allen, though, decent pass catching backup running back. He's very similar to TJ Yeldon, honestly, in the sense that he's got some talent, but he's a backup running back. But Kenneth Dixon, if Collins falters, Kenneth Dixon is more than taking Alex Collins' job, and Kenneth Dixon can also catch passes, so he's not the type of guy you take off the field.
It's supposed to be their all-star, and it just never happened. It still could, I don't think he's quite what he was, but he could definitely be a really interesting back.
Joe wants to know what the overall feeling of this. Yeah, we have lots of questions. Joe wants to know how we're feeling about Willie Snead. Not a lot of competition for targets, is my opinion here. I think he, if his head's right, if his body's right, he could go and do Willie Snead things. I mean, they did sign him away from the Saints. He's going to start for them. He's got every opportunity to be good again. Wide receiver 3/4, Connor, around there.
Yeah, like I said, I wish he had signed on somewhere more with like a Patriot team or, a team that has that kind of offensive system where
the Lions even so just a better quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think especially if Flacco were to get replaced, might be good for him. But I think Flacco weirdly could utilize Snead the way that he's meant to be used, that we haven't really seen from Flacco, but I think he could do it. I mean, he pretty much would do something like Dennis Pitta did, just he's a smaller guy.
Yeah, for sure.
I can see it working.
That third down chain mover, but that's probably going to be Michael Crabtree's role. Joe, I think you'll be able to start him probably most weeks, but you're not unless he scores a touchdown, you're probably not going to be too thrilled about it. I think that's pretty much my take on it.
Yeah. I could see him getting a lot of games where he gets, 2 catches for 30 yards maybe.
Ray asks, what should I concentrate on my first couple of picks? Ray, I think you got to you have pick at 12 and pick at 42. Both those need to be running backs. You have way too many question marks with the 2 guys that you do have. I mean, they're good players. Like in the NFL, you would have a really great running back tandem. You really would. Especially because those skill sets complement each other so well. It's very similar to
the Saints. 2 players could be both on different teams next season and really, really improve your team. I think you got 2 running backs that in the future could be really good. So yeah. I would try to focus on some safer guys. Just talking about Alex Collins there. If he were to fall to you at 12, which I guess could happen,
that would be
amazing. That would be amazing. That'd be like your dream pick, I think.
But if this injury thing hangs over, Sony Michel could be a good pick there. It's the only thing is it's got to be a running back. Steve just made that trade with me the other day so he could get ahead of Ray. So it's really tough. But I think Alex Collins, Sony Michel, Rashad Penny could be a good option there. Even a guy like Kerryon Johnson, like you need somebody. Kerryon Johnson might have a little bit too much risk, but you need somebody that you can start week in, week out. Maybe even think about moving up from 12 to get one of those other guys. That's what I would do. Running back, and then maybe grab a couple of young wide receivers. You have a ton of picks at the end of the draft. I need a tight end too. Do not draft a tight end at number 42, no matter who's there.
Yeah,
that's what you should do with your first couple picks, Ray. Let's get to Cleveland. I believe we had a question about. We're down to only 2 viewers. I believe we had a question about Josh Gordon. What is going on with Josh Gordon? Connor, I don't know the answer to that, so I'm going to leave that one for you.
I have no idea, but I'm going to make a guess anyway. I literally think it might just be that there's a bit of a party lifestyle to the early parts of the off season when the guys all get together, and I think he just wanted to get away from that. That would be my guess. I really don't think it's serious. I mean, until I see him not show up, during the first week of practice just before the first game, I don't think then I'll be worried. But as of right now, I think he's literally just trying to get away from all the things that remind him of that kind of lifestyle where he can fall back into his addiction.
I also have a theory about this. Hard Knocks is in the Cleveland Browns training camp right now, and they probably don't want Josh Gordon being a part of the storyline. I haven't been watching Hard Knocks, but it seems to me that one of your best players not being around would be a storyline that they talk about on Hard Knocks.
Could be.
But maybe they just didn't want him being followed around with a camera all the time. And damn well, someone from HBO, some low level jamoke would try to get him to go out drinking or something so they'd have a story.
I mean, when all the guys from Nickelodeon back in the 90s were doing cocaine and passing it off around, anybody
Right.
Anybody in the production industry.
Those guys work for HBO now, okay? But no, it's if he's right, he's one of the best receivers in the league. We saw it last year where he absolutely just destroyed Casey Hayward, who was a first-team All-Pro. I mean, the guy can play football.
And I mean, I really want to see it again. I've been burned by him myself, but even if I weren't the one to own him, I just want to see him do that good again because he was so good.
For sure. Jarvis Landry comes over from the Dolphins, best slot receiver in the league, I guess. Maybe other than Larry Fitzgerald. The guy is, he's very target dependent, but he's a good player, makes this offense better. We talked about Antonio Callaway a little bit earlier, and with the suspension stuff already starting to affect him, what does that do to his UML draft value?
I think if you're going to draft this guy, you got to eat nails for breakfast. It could definitely work out for you, but it's you got to really take a huge gamble. I mean, maybe he'll fall, but I feel like there's going to be that one guy in the draft that's going to take him a little too early just because they know this guy's a freak athlete.
This is Josh Gordon, the sequel, everybody, just so you know. Really talented player, 21 years old, but late round pick. After the Corey Coleman trade, when I first heard about that, I was like, yeah, great. He can, go in the middle rounds and have a decent rookie season, and then next year you're cooking with gas. And now everything is I mean, like you said, you got to have some stones to draft this guy. He's just he's so. I mean, he's a good route runner. He's not really a raw prospect. He's just, is he going to be on the field? And so far the answer is no. He's not going to.
That's just one thing. Who knows what else he's probably done this offseason that's going to come up.
For sure. And I want no other Browns receivers.
Yeah, I think they have their 3 guys.
Yeah, I mean, Richard Higgins is kind of a slot guy. Jeff Janis, if you're throwing Hail Marys, he'll grab those every single time for you.
The problem is he doesn't have, probably the best quarterback in the league throwing to him anymore.
Sure. Tight end David Njoku, owned by the Toad Point Trippers. It's ready to go. I mean, this offense is loaded. I mean, they have really good players. David Njoku, great athlete. Adam Azer from the CBS Fantasy Football Podcast said that he was the best athlete in last year's draft. I Njoku came from Miami, and that's where Azer went for what it's worth. So take that with a grain of salt. But David Njoku, great athlete, tight end 1 this year.
I really love either quarterback throwing to him. I feel like Tyrod Taylor. We already saw in Buffalo what he does with his tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
So Njoku's going to love that. And if Baker Mayfield, oh wow, I can't say his name. Baker Mayfield can get on the field. If he can get on the field, I think we could see like a really early start to a connection between two players that could last, another 5 to 8 years.
Yeah, for sure. Tyrod Taylor. What holiday does Baker Mayfield make his first start?
This one to me is oddly tougher than I think all the rest. I could see him starting week 1 potentially, but I think they will hold off.
I think they might win some games with Tyrod. That's going to keep them from.
I know. I really do think that. I'm going to say once again, I'm going to go with good old Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's about right because that'll probably be around the time the Browns are out of it. So,
yeah. They're not going to win that many games. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor. He's the type of player that doesn't really give you reasons to bench him. Even last year, he gave the Bills no reason to bench him, and then he should just sat on the bench and just been, I'm not going back in. You made your bed and I'll sleep in it.
Let's see how many more interceptions we can get in this game.
He would have had the record. I mean, the record's 7, and he threw 5.5. You tell me he wasn't going to throw 2 more, 3 more? Come on. They were losing. They had to throw. The running back situation is dicey.
Oh, yeah. I heard, actually, I just saw today, Carlos Hyde is atop the depth chart 100% right now. They're confident with him right now at this moment.
That's not surprising. I mean, he's an NFL running back and showed us some surprising pass catching upside last year with the Niners. Duke Johnson is Duke Johnson. You know the name, you know the game. He's going to continue doing exactly what he does. The only question is, when does Chubb kind of start to eat into Carlos Hyde's workload? And it could be early. But I think if Hyde is playing well and he has the opportunity to do that with Tyrod Taylor, mobile quarterbacks usually help. Running backs, have a little bit more, that one guy is Tyrod Taylor. He's not staying in the box anymore. So I think Carlos Hyde could actually run for some decent yards. They have a decent offensive line. I think
another thing is just going to be like the little things. Can Nick Chubb protect the quarterback properly? It's just going to be little minor things that could take a rookie running back and make them sit for a few weeks. If you got a guy of Hyde's caliber and Chubb's having trouble keeping a quarterback from getting railed, then he's going to sit out longer. Just
railed. Phrasing.
So yeah, I think Chubb. I could see Chubb not starting or not even getting too many carries for the first 4 games.
Could you see maybe week 1, Chubb's not even active? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think he'll be active and maybe just not get much work?
With Johnson there to start
because he doesn't play special teams.
He could be the guy, the odd man out for whoever they're going to have for.
But he was a high second round pick at that. I don't see it really coming to fruition, but it could if they have some injuries at some other positions and they need a couple extra offensive linemen or whatever. It's definitely not unreasonable. Okay, Pittsburgh Steelers. Their quarterback's Ben Roethlisberger. You want nothing to do with any of their other quarterbacks, even if he's hurt. So we'll move on past that. Lev Bell. What's the scoop with him? Is he going to be around or what?
He's going to be around this year. I just think this is it. This is their last chance. Which
means he hasn't reported yet, right? So
I think he will, and I think they're going to run him into the ground, and that's going to be great for the fantasy season.
Yeah. Watch out for next year, though, Kevin. Yeah. But, with Lev Bell, we've stopped getting questions. It's what's the deal?
Yeah. Come on.
But no, I think Lev Bell were to get hurt. Do we like James Conner? Do we like any of these guys, or do you think it would be kind of a committee that helps no one kind of situation?
I really think it's going to be a committee. I've never been that high on. I mean, I think he's a fine backup, but I don't think he's. I think they're going to throw Toussaint out there because I think he's an interesting kind of guy to go with Connor. And I mean, then any of those rookies or whatever could fit in. I don't see it just being Connor, or they could even find somebody in free agency
True,
to kind of
true
work
that.
with.
Yeah, go get DeMarco Murray.
Yeah.
Tight end wise, Vance McDonald flashed a little bit last year. He's a tight end too for us, I think. Jesse James, kind of same story.
It's kind of like a lesser Ebron and Baby Hand situation.
Yeah, something to watch is Bucky Hodges. I mean, he may not make the team, but he's an extremely good athlete. Watch out for him. If he makes the team and gets some reps, he could be a game breaker. Receivers, Antonio Brown is the best receiver in the league. That's great. Juju Smith-Schuster had a little bit of an injury thing come up. He seems to be fine though. I saw him like dancing for some kids at the training camp, so he seems to be okay. Darius Hayward-Bay is going to do what he does. He's going to run down kicks and have like 3 that helps no one touchdowns. Justin Hunter will not die. That guy's been around for a while now. What do we think about James Washington, the 2nd round pick out of
I think with what you named there, Hayward-Bay and Hunter, I could see him sliding into that third wide receiver spot really easily. I don't necessarily think he's going to like set the world on fire like some people are saying. I think Juju's still got an easy handle.
He's had a really quiet camp as Washington.
Yeah, I think he's a guy to watch for Dynasty, but I don't see him wowing anyone this year.
Yeah,
people seem to think that.
They brought Eli Rogers back too, who's apparently made like a miraculous recovery from that ACL he had in the playoffs, and he's like already like healthy, like 100% healthy. So they brought him back, and he did have some utility in the last couple of years. So watch out for him as well. It's not a guy to draft, Eli Rogers, but if you're needing a receiver in like your week 8 bye or whatever, you could do a hell of a lot worse. Steelers are actually one of the more straightforward teams.
Yeah, they've had the same formula for a while.
Yeah. Cincinnati Bengals. Right as we pass the hour mark of this podcast already.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
No wonder people watching.
might have to split this up into 2 parts.
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
At quarterback, they have Andy Dalton. Okay, he's a QB2. And you want no part of Matt Barkley if he becomes the starter.
Ugh.
But tell us a little bit about this running back situation. What's the split going to be like between Bernard, Mixon? Is Mark Walton going to have a role, or what's the scoop?
I think Mark Walton is the Bernard replacement. I don't think we'll see too much of him this year. He may have like that week 13 like crazy play that everybody's going to be talking about. They're going to be like, wow, this guy's amazing. But I don't really see him doing too much this season.
There's a player for your dad.
There's another name, yep. That's very dad-like for him, too. I think Mark Walton's a guy that would fit in with the guys he usually likes to draft. But Joe Mixon, I think will get a majority of the carries, and Giovanni Bernard will either spell him or get that third down opportunity. I think it's a better mix for both of them. I think they're both going to improve over last season without having Hill there to really ruin everything. So I like both those players this year. I think Giovanni Bernard's going to be a guy that you're going to find pretty late in your draft, and I think it is worth it's not going to be an attractive pick for anybody, but I think it's definitely something people should be thinking about.
For sure. And Giovanni Bernard, like you said, is kind of in that Lamar Miller territory.
Carlo's asking the question right now about Gio. So,
would you be a good value for a draft? I think he will be, because I don't think people are going to be really excited to draft him, but I think he'll give you some decent production. I think for sure.
Yep.
At wide receiver, AJ Green is good at football. He'll be I guess like a top 10 pick. He might slip to the 2nd round. I don't know that he should though. I know people need running backs, but what you need are good players, and AJ Green's good at football. Tyler Boyd looks like he's going to start after kind of a disappointing rookie season and a disappointing second season. John Ross, I guess, is tearing it up at camp. Nobody can cover the guy, I guess. Probably part of the reason that partially because he can run faster than like a speeding bullet. Uh, Outside that, do we like any of these other receivers on this team?
Not really. I think those are the two to watch for. I think Boyd's kind of the safe guy. Ross is owned already anyway, though. And is Boyd owned too?
No, Boyd is available.
I think Boyd's kind of like a really safe later pick. I think he's going to be kind of like what Corey Coleman was last year.
Yeah, if you need a 14th round receiver that can start a couple times for you, then there you go.
Yeah.
But
I think that's pretty much it, and especially with Andy Dalton there. And I mean, it seems like they're starting to get their offense back together, but if it's anything like last year, it's going to be rough going.
Yeah, at least their offensive line appears to be fixed. Do we like Tyler Kroft when Tyler Eifert gets hurt?
I do. I think Kroft's proven time and time again, because it happens so often, that he can step into the role and almost just look just like him.
Yeah, I think
he's perfect.
If you spend like a late pick, like a 16th round pick on Tyler Kroft, I think you'll be really pleased with it, honestly.
Yeah.
If he's even there, honestly. I mean, he did have a really good season last year for Tyler Kroft.
I'm surprised he isn't a player that's tried to go somewhere else.
Yeah, he had the option. He re-signed with him for some ridiculous reason.
Well, it's because he knows Eifert's never going to play full season.
Yeah, he's like, why would I go anywhere else? I already know the offense, and I start anyway.
I am the starting.
Haven't you been paying attention? At quarterback, the Denver Broncos. Switching gears here, the Broncos. Case Keenum, QB2, and I don't feel good about Case Keenum at all.
I think he will not have the year he had at Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be good enough where he's not really going to affect. Like, you're not drafting their receivers because of him, but he's not going to raise up the players around him.
I really think he got the best situation he could possibly be in for signing, knowing that he wasn't going to be the starter for Minnesota. I think it's the best team for him. He doesn't have to be the best quarterback because the team doesn't depend on him. I mean, with what they had last year, he's a significant improvement. I think he's going to just kind of play average, and people are going to be happy about it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. If he gets hurt, run, because Paxton Lynch sucks, and Chad Kelly might suck. Carlo asks, is Demaryius going to be a bust? I don't know that Demaryius Thomas can be a bust in just the sense that I think he's going to go I think he was a 4th round pick in one of our mocks that we did. And that's great value. He almost can't underperform to that. And the guy has put up like 1,000-yard season with Tim Tebow. Okay, I know he's 30 now, but I think Demaryius Thomas is a wide receiver too, all day long.
I agree with what you said. I think Cortland Sutton, it can coexist with Thomas at the moment. I think he definitely is the replacement, but it's not going to be yet. I think Sanders and Thomas are the two guys. They're going to both probably sign somewhere else after the season. But for right now, there's no reason to think that those two aren't the two starting wide receivers for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, and they'll both be good as well. Mm-hmm. Isaiah McKenzie is a guy who can play a little slot, but he's mostly a punt returner. Jordan Taylor is on the PUP list for one thing, but he's also like a big 6'5" white guy. We all know that receiver. Deshaun Hamilton was a 4th round pick for them. If you're looking for a really late guy to throw a dart at.
Yeah, he's a dynasty guy for me.
Yeah, it's I mean, you're going to be just fine if you don't draft him, but if
you really like him,
he could be a starting receiver for this team next year easily.
Yeah.
There's also Carlos Henderson, who was a 3rd round pick last year. I don't see listed on their depth chart. Let's see what his story is right now. Yeah, he's still hurt. So who knows if he's ever going to be, if he's dealing with a family and personal situation.
And also, I don't know who this is, or I doubt he's going to make the team, but if he does, I'm rooting for him. I want to see Bryce Bobo really excel so I can say his name.
Bryce Bobo. How about River Craycraft?
They've got some awesome names on here.
Yeah, those two guys. If we can just get River Craycraft and Bryce Bobo. make the team. That'd be great. Get rid of Jordan Leslie. Who the hell is that? But everyone's here for the running backs: Devontae Booker, Royce Freeman, D'Angelo Henderson, and Philip Lindsay is a guy that's been kind of tearing it up in camp as well. I think this is going to be a committee, and I think it's going to be really hard to tell who the running back to own is going to be.
I disagree with you there. I really think Royce Freeman will be the guy. I don't think Booker's going to show up this season. I do think it's definitely not going to be Freeman nonstop. I think there is some sort of sense of a committee that will happen, but I think Royce Freeman by week 6 will be the lead back with no question to me.
It's a bigger back, kind of in the Oregon Jonathan Stewart mold. He's, I think, 5'11", 240, something like that. It's a really big guy, and the comp for him has been Alfred Morris. He's not much of a pass catcher here, but I mean he can do that. We saw him against Oregon State last year. He had 19 carries, but also added 2 catches and another receiving touchdown. So the guy can play. It's just there's only one football, and they're gonna give Booker his opportunity.
I mean, maybe it's gonna be another Monte Ball situation, and you're right. Philip Lindsay will be the next guy to just come out of nowhere.
He'll be C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, he'll be the C.J. Anderson.
I just think Royce Freeman is kind of in that group with Nick Chubb and Kerryon Johnson more so than he's in the Sony Michel. And
I agree with you there. I just think his path is easier than some.
Sure. And he's definitely above guys like Mark Walton and Cash, who I think aren't going to have much value until next year, if ever.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, Booker's owned. D'Angelo Henderson, if you want to throw a dart late, but he's probably going to need an injury to do anything. And then Philip Lindsay, whatever. I think this backfield's a mess. If you need a running back, one of these guys, I guess, could help you, but I'm probably looking the other direction. Let's see here. Kansas City Chiefos. Patrick Mahomes. I think he's going to make a lot of big plays. Also think he's going to turn the ball over a lot. Just kind of the style of player that he is. What do we expect from the second-year signal caller?
He's looked a little rough in early camp from what I've heard, but I think he's just working it all out. I think he should be a fine quarterback. There's definitely a big upside, but at the same time, we don't know what he is. He's still a question mark.
Yeah, he's been throwing a lot of interceptions in training camp practices, is what I've heard. But yeah. I heard from in an interview with Andy Reid and in an interview with Marcus Peters, who's obviously with the Rams now, but obviously played for the Chiefs the last few years. He said that in training camp they practice things guys are bad at the most. So you might hear about a guy getting roasted in coverage, but they're putting him like one-on-one against, Jordy Nelson when Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball, so something like that. So I wouldn't trip too much over training camp interceptions, but I mean we've always known he's going to throw picks. He's a pretty safe bet, I think, to probably lead the NFL in interceptions thrown this year, assuming Eli doesn't, decide to hang on to that for one more year. Kareem Hunt is obviously the feature back here. If he goes down, is it a committee, or do you like Ware? Do you like West? What are you thinking there?
I think it would be Ware. I don't think, which is good for Hunt. I don't think a committee is something that their coaching staff likes to do. I mean, Chargic West is definitely always that change of pace guy that they throw in every once in a while. He always gets his carries, but
yeah, he has his role.
It's
so
you
would say his role would stay the same, and they would just have Ware fill Hunt's role.
Just be Ware, be that, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And until if Hunt were not to go down, Ware would be the West role for that time.
Sure.
I don't see it being anything more than that.
Travis Kelce obviously is like a top 2 tight end. Demetrius Harris is a nice basketball converted player. He's been around for a long time at this point. Hasn't really done anything. I don't think you want a Chiefs tight end. Hey, Tim Wright is on this team. Tim Wright from back in the day. But Demetrius Harris, could, I guess, be okay as like a low-end tight end too for bye weeks if something happened to Kelsey, but we were not wanting that to happen. The big free agent acquisition for this was Sammy Watkins coming over from the Rams. What do you think his prospects are? And Joe, Connor says Freeman. I say I guess Freeman, but I don't really want either of them to answer your question.
Hey, he had another question too, didn't he?
Yeah, I was like, did his team get better by dropping Gio? Gio was in like the 6th round. Joe, I don't think you're going to win the league this year, and having a guy like Giovanni Bernard on your team just to get a year older doesn't add anything. So if you draft a young player with that pick, then yes, I say you improved your team by dropping it.
I agree. I think on the right team, it would have been a bad drop, but for yours, it was a good move.
If Carlo dropped Gio Bernard, that would have been a bad move.
Yeah.
Because he's got nothing else at running back. But back to Sammy Watkins, Connor.
I heard he just tweaked his hip today, which is always awful thing to hear.
That's what you're after.
Always hurt. I think if as long as he's healthy, I think both of them will get. With Hill being streaky some of the time, I think Sammy Watkins is going to fill in the weeks where Hill falters, and I think he's going to get his points. I think he will have a better season if he's healthy the whole year than he did with the Rams last season, because last season he kind of got outpaced by the bromance between I forget both their names.
Goff and Woods.
Goff and Wood. So I think here he may have a shot to get a bit more love, and I think he'll have a better season. That said, if he goes down, maybe Chris Conley's a guy that's going to be playing the waiver wire. I think he's kind of been a guy that people have talked about, but he's never really stood out. But if all it is Hill and Conley with other players leaving and now Sammy Watkins possibly being injured.
How dare you disparage the likes of Derek Jeter?
It sounds like Derek Jeter signed for a football team. And that's
Derek Jeter. Oh my goodness! They also have Daniel Braverman who could do some slot stuff for them if he ends up making the team. But I think it's very unlikely that he outplays Anthony Thomas for that role. Tyreek Hill is going to do Tyreek Hill things. This is a team that I think is pretty straightforward as far as things go. I think the Chiefs are going to go through some growing pains. I think they'll be like 8-8 or so this year.
But they'll still put up points.
Yeah, and but it'll be an exciting 8-8.
Yep.
Cool. So there's your Chiefs, and then we'll go on over to the Oakland Raiders. Connor, tell us about the Oakland Raiders.
Well, they've got this new coach called John Gruden, which decided to make the age of this team look something like a Alex Hansen fantasy roster, where he just wants all of these old players. Did I lose you? Okay. There.
For a second, you're good.
So I think they'll be okay. I think they aren't going to be as bad as last season. I think last season was kind of a low point for the roster that they had. I'm hoping Derek Carr picks it up. But if we're going to first for running backs, I think Marshawn Lynch is most certainly not as bad as people think he is. I think he had a pretty nice season last year. I'm not that worried about Doug Martin. I think he will see the field at some point here or there, but I really think it's still Lynch's backfield.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame, though, because I think Jalen Richard might be the best running back on that team.
He had his chance to show it, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, and then DeAndre Washington, I think at this point is going to be lucky to make the team. There's just one football. I mean, could they cut Doug Martin? Maybe they should. I think Doug Martin sucks.
I really feel like it's just kind of like an ulcer to this team. I feel like it's just not. It's just
like, why do you have Doug Martin on this team?
Yeah, it's just with Lynch there, it's just not necessary.
Yeah, that's right, Doug Martin. Get wrecked. Derek Carr is good at football. Connor Cook, not so much. That's pretty much it. You want no Raiders if Connor Cook's playing, by the way.
Yeah. He stole my name, so.
That's right. Yeah, screw Connor Cook and screw Doug Martin. Jared Cook signs from Green Bay. Tight end 2. Do we care? Really?
I do, because I have him right now.
Well, right. He's a tight end.
So. I think he's a tight end 2. He's fine.
Yeah.
He looks like he actually plays football now. At least that's like the bare minimum he could do.
Jordy Nelson also signed from the Packers, and he apparently has just been wrecking shop in camp. Now, this is one of those pet peeves of mine when they say like is like tearing up in camp. It's like, yeah, he's going against like Billy Bob undrafted corner from like Shadron State, okay? And yeah, Jordy Nelson is going to roast that dude. All right, and but I mean, if he's right, then him, Amari Cooper, Martavis Bryant, Seth Roberts is a good slot receiver. Johnny Holton was like the fastest guy in the combine a couple years ago. Ryan Switzer's, I mean, he's there to return punts, but and then Griff Whalen, who is apparently still in the NFL. I mean, this is actually a pretty good receiving core.
Yeah,
the offensive line is good.
They fit really nicely together. Those top three, especially.
Yeah,
I do think it's kind of funny that they got rid of Crabtree. I'm assuming partially because of his attitude problem, and then set out to get Martavis Bryant, which is weird to me because he probably has a worse attitude than Crabtree.
yeah,
But,
he's already like potentially going to get suspended again. So
yeah, so I mean, I thought that was a little strange, but I think if Bryant's on the field, he's going to be good.
Yeah, for sure.
who has more catches this year, Martavis Bryant or Seth Roberts?
He loves Seth Roberts for some reason. I will say that Derek Carr loves Seth Roberts. I think if he's on the field enough and he doesn't do dumb things off the field, there's no reason.
That's part of it. You got to bake that into your answer. Seth Roberts.
You're gonna do that to me. I'm gonna say Bryant still. I think he's gonna have a new scenery and maybe a new determination to not be quite as much of a dumbass.
For sure.
Why don't you go into our last team, the Chargers? I'll be right back.
The Los Angeles Superchargers. Their training camp's actually like just down the street from my work. I haven't been there yet, but I do plan on going.
You're not watching anymore?
I'll get you guys a report on that just as soon as I can. The quarterback position is pretty straightforward. As long as Phillip Rivers is healthy, and he always is, the offense will be fine. Geno Smith is basically the bubonic plague receivers. Phillip Rivers, good player. You know the name. You know the game. If you need a quarterback, you can do a hell of a lot worse. Carlo, yeah, Keenan Allen's a wide receiver 1, and you knew that. You didn't have to ask me that. At running back, Melvin Gordon, he's a RB1, I guess. Austin Eckler is for some reason listed behind this Justin Jackson on the depth chart. I don't buy that at all. I think Eckler will actually have a little bit of standalone value as a change of pace back and a pass catcher. Not sure where you're going to have to draft him, but he should be worth the price of admission, as cheap as it is. Carlo hitting me with the cringe face. Tight end. They have Hunter Henry, I guess. Would you rather have a Hunter Henry with a torn ACL or any of these other guys?
Hunter Henry with a torn ACL for sure.
Like,
I mean, Virgil Green could maybe be a red zone threat, but it's rough.
Virgil Green has like 5 career catches, by the way. They're going to bring back Antonio Gates at some point, and I don't even know if you want him, honestly. I mean, maybe as a bye week guy, a tight end too. I don't know.
I think he could be a waiver claim guy that steps it up every once in a while, and he'll be like who's that one guy for years that was just everybody seemed to own him at 1 week.
Daniel Fells.
Yeah, he's going to be the Daniel Fells of this season.
Oh, you're gonna say that Antonio Gates is going to be the Daniel Fells? Oof.
Well, I mean, he's old. Yeah,
I know, that's brutal, though, man. That's mean. That's rude.
I mean, the fact is, even a Daniel Fells right now is actually pretty outstanding.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's like, hey, that just means everybody wants him for 1 week, and that's it. At wide receiver, Carlo Keenan Allen is a wide receiver. No question.
He isn't dead on the sideline.
Yeah, this is actually a really good receiving core as well. Mike Williams, I guess, looks good in practice. But tread carefully. I mean, there's only one football, and they're going to try to run the football as well. Tyrell Williams is a good red zone threat. Travis Benjamin's a nice slot receiver / punt returner kind of guy. Not really.
I will say they have a lot of guys that are very good, but none of them have stepped up yet. I'm waiting for one of them to like really step up.
You mean aside from Allen?
Yeah, aside from Allen. I want to see that I want to see that wide receiver 2 really stand out and show that he's going to be great.
This is Mike Williams' chance. He's a nice big player that can kind of play the middle of the field, maybe run some of those routes that Hunter Henry was going to run before the injury. Ray, Michael Crabtree will be successful in Baltimore, I think, because Joe Flacco really likes throwing to those, possession receivers. We saw it before with Anquan. Late career Steve Smith was kind of a possession receiver. We saw it earlier with Derek Mason. Basically, Dennis Pitta is another one. I know he's a tight end, but we've seen it with Flacco over and over and over again that he really likes to lock in on veteran receivers with reliable hands, and that's Crabtree in a nutshell. The guy is he'll be open. He's not going to drop the ball usually, and I think Flacco is going to really.
As long as he's not like trying to fight somebody on the field, he's going to be fantastic.
Did you hear that report that before? So there's the first chain snatching incident with Aqib Talib, right? And then they played them again because they were in the same division. And then Michael Crabtree taped his chain to his chest, and Talib still got it. And he's like, "Well, you gotta wear the chain, otherwise he knows he's in your head. You taped it to your chest. He's in your head, dude. Sorry to disappoint you." Michael Crabtree is a sorry receiver that you can't try Richard Sherman. So, Martavis.
Joe just asked about Martavis Bryant. Is he a wide receiver 2? I think he's going to have weeks where he could be a wide receiver 1. But in terms of an entire season length, I think he's probably best left as a wide receiver 3. I think with the addition of Nelson there, he's going to have too many times where he's going to be throwing the ball Nelson's way for those short yard gains, and it's going to take away from the total output that Bryant could put in. So I think he's on the verge of wide receiver 2 area, but I think he's definitely a wide receiver 3 until we see something different from him.
Yeah, for sure. And Joe, looking at your team, you should probably operate under the assumption that you need at least one receiver that's better than Martavis Bryant. I think we talked about in a previous podcast that Larry Fitzgerald would be a good fit for your team. Not sure how true that is. Just looking at your team, I'm not sure you're knocking on the door. But he would bring a lot of stability to a team that doesn't have any at that position. So that's the Joe's wide receiver breakdown here on the show. Who do you like among these guys? Which Williams do you fancy?
I really think I'm going to go with Mike Williams this season out of the 2. I just think he needs to show it this year. I think as long as he's healthy, I think he'll be fine. For
sure, yeah. Tyrell Williams will have some utility. Travis Benjamin, he'll probably get started like 6-7 times throughout the season by various teams. And that's fine. They did improve their offensive line. The offensive line is healthy, but this team cannot catch a break. I guess he's okay, but Joey Bosa got hurt in practice today. We obviously saw the Hunter Henry thing, Jason Verrett. Like they can't keep anybody healthy here. But that's the Chargers, and they do have Roberto Aguayo in camp, by the way, battling for a kicker job. So, anyway, guys, that's the AFC depth charts. We wanted to do the whole league, but we got kind of into it. And Ray, Josh Allen starts sometime in October because he said Thanksgiving, but it'll be sometime in October because AJ McCarron sucks.
True.
But yeah, so we'll do the NFC. We'll do the NFC another time. Connor, I guess you and I can talk off air when we're going to do that. We'll let everyone know once we nail down a date. Also, guys, you don't have to watch this live. If you missed anything, you can go back to the same link, and just watch the video like it's any other video on YouTube. So you don't have to watch this live if you don't want. Lots of good content. We did the entire AFC today. We'll do the NFC sometime soon. Now, real quick, the draft.
Since we got so many people's attention, what are you doing?
Woodhead.
Oh God. Since we have so much attention, should we ask if somebody wants to see part of a mock draft, or do we not have enough time?
I've got time. Does anybody want to see part of a mock draft? Oh, I wonder how long the delay is. I don't know how long the delay is. Anyway, some quick housekeeping stuff, guys. We are going to do the first waiver lottery. Ray, what are you doing? We're going to do the first waiver lottery at the draft. It'll be before the draft starts. So that'll be, we'll draw the teams out of a hat, and you'll be able to bake that into your draft strategy, which I think is going to be kind of cool. So that'll be a lot of fun. The draft starts at 3:00 on Saturday, August 25th. Try to carpool if you can, as much as you can. Both want this mock draft, so I guess we can fire one up here in a second, Connor. So try to get there on time. We're going to do, obviously the presentation of the trophy, which Connor still needs to get engraved, I'm pretty sure. So make sure you get that done in the next 2 weeks, Connor.
Yeah.
I'm literally not going to be in town until like 9:00 the previous night, so I really need you to do it.
Okay.
Beyond that, the famous lunch hot dog situation is a little bit tenuous at this point. Hembol's, the place that makes the hot dogs themselves, is like closed for the next year for whatever reason. Like they plan to reopen sometime in July of next year. So don't really know. We're still trying to figure that out. But we will have lots of wings.
We could go the hot dog Charlie route.
Fuck that, man.
I know it's definitely not as good. But
well, the thing is, we're going to buy the famous lunch sauce.
Oh, you still can. Well, how are they serving hot dogs if they don't have it?
That's my thing. I don't know how. I really don't know. So we're going to do investigation. Steve, you live in Troy. If you can go by there, that'd be like really, really great. Queef Wellington will be engraved on the trophy. Yes, Carla. God. All right, Connor, you want to do how much of a mock do you guys want to see? Comment in the chat here.
Don't say 18 though, because that's not happening.
Yeah, you clowns. Antonio Gates, Joe, says he still wants to play, and after the Hunter Henry injury, there's kind of a mutual interest between the Chargers and Antonio Gates. We'll see exactly how that comes to fruition. Not really sure you even want him. Ray wants 6 rounds. Carlo wants 8. Kevin says Nathan's hot dogs, and I think Kevin's completely missing the point of what we're trying to accomplish here. Good grief, man. All right, so let me go ahead and turn on the screen share here, and then we'll get this mock cracking.
Carlo's dead set on round 8.
Nah, it's a round 8. Is my screen completely jacked? Like, how's that?
What is your screen? What?
Is it completely weird, or is it good now?
No, it's clear. It's just on Facebook.
All right, cool. So
you going to trivia night, Doug?
That's at my brewery that I work for.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah. Skipping over that. Does anybody want to see what the software looks like by any chance? Farmville. Where do you even see that?
You still looking up all your recipes for lasagna?
Dude, that recipe I have for the sauce for the lasagna is so good, I'll have to give it to you. It's like a spicy garlic.
Man. Oh, God.
It's really good, man. Let's see here. All right, let's get going over here. Nobody wants to see this. I feel like people are not as hyped for this software as they should be. This software is going to be super legit. I'm going to actually close Facebook and use it on my phone. I do still play Farmville. Even I don't even know how to play Farmville, but still. Anyway.
Sounds like you're denying it, Doug.
That's right. It's a likely story. Connor, you want to get us started with this first pick?
Well, I think the first 3 picks have been pretty much a lock the whole time, and I don't see it changing today. I think he's going to go ahead and seal up the top rookie, Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and then I think Steve's going to go with Dalvin Cook. I think it's pretty apparent. He looks good in camp. He looks healthy. And then Nate is left to quote unquote settle for Christian Free from Carolina. All right. So I guess I'll pick for Alex here at number 4 overall. And I think you could be a little surprised here. I think Alex will will really dig in on some of this rookie stuff, and I think he'll actually see something a little surprising. I think you see Sony Michel come off the board. I think he'll be healthy, and it's the type of player that Alex needs. So there's that. Sony Michel. Connor's on the clock for the Rampage.
I really still feel like Joe Mixon's going to be the guy there for him at 5. I think he might be enticed by, say, like a Penny or a Geis, but I think Mixon's kind of the sure thing out of that group.
For sure. And then I think I'll grab myself a little AJ Green here. He's the best one available. Really simple pick for me.
Yeah, whatever.
You're on the clock for Pat.
For Pat, last time we gave him a little bit of an older player. I think this time around, out of all the rookies, just so he has a little kind of intel on what kind of rookie to go for, I think for the team that he has, I think he may be a Geis guy. I think he may take a chance with that guy, even though he does have an attitude problem. It doesn't really matter on the field, and if he's going to be that talented, I think he's going to be worth that high of a pick.
For what it's worth, Darius Geis currently listed as 5th on the Redskins depth chart, but we'll get to that in the NFC edition of the podcast.
Oh, really? Still?
Yeah, I'm not sure that actually means anything, but
sometimes they just don't update it, or they like to mess with people, but
for sure, especially the Patriots. Carlo's up at pick 8, and we were thinking about it. With a guy like Rashad Penny, do we go with a guy like an Alex Collins? And I honestly, I think Alex Collins is a great pick here for Carlo. It lets him be a contender this year with a nice about as safe as you can get. I mean, the guy can play as long as he doesn't fumble too much. He'll be a good pick. And then you're picking for yourself, Mr. Hemian.
Oh, wow.
Bomb trading.
I think it's time Tom Brady gets brought up here. Perfect fit for my team. Shores up my quarterback situation. Good fit with my running backs.
Tom Brady. If that's not deflection, I don't know what is. Now, Pat comes back up. He grabs Darius Geis with that first pick. He's got Marlon Mack, Devontae Freeman, and now Darius Geis. He was considering him in the last round. I think you see Rashad Penny come off the board right here.
I think that's a great first 2 picks for Pat there.
Yeah, I really think so. Now the pick that is on its 3rd owner, Steve, comes up to pick here at number 11. What do you see him doing?
I think he's got to go running back still. I think, although I've heard really bad news about him as of this moment, I think he still has time to fix it. I think he might go with a Ronald Jones here. I think that's a good. I think Cook's kind of a sure thing, and Jones could be that maybe sometimes more pass catching back, or at least every down back at Tampa Bay.
Nice. Ray comes up at number 12. Unfortunately, like we were talking earlier, Alex Collins is not still on the board. Second, I'm actually going to grab one of the available players lists out of the draft kits. There's definitely a lot of players here that are probably worthy of this pick, but we just don't know who they are. I think Kerryon Johnson ends up being the pick here. Ray needs to get a running back that can play right now, and Kerryon Johnson's got a not clear but not exactly daunting path to playing time.
Joe, I think I'm with you. I think Hunter Henry does kind of look like a douche. Thanks for that addition to the podcast.
Can we also talk about the fact that his parents didn't make his middle name like Harris or something like that to make him Triple H? He's like, his middle name's like Allen or something like that. And that's just a huge missed opportunity. Anyway, you're up for the Murder Muppets in the second round here, Connor.
Oh, you're up here. Who'd you go with first?
AJ Green. It should be on the screen.
I think you got to go running back now. I think you possibly can afford with what the other running backs you have at the moment for Nick Chubb potentially here with your second pick.
Nick Chubb. AJ Green, Nick Chubb. Not a bad start to the draft.
You could kind of, have the Dion Lewis and Hunter Henry experiment going on, and then when one of those guys maybe gets hurt, maybe Chubb will be starting by then.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad move at all. Rabbit College Rampage come up here at pick number 14, and he's got looking for a back as well. And a name we haven't really seen come up a whole lot, but I actually think is going to have a lot of utility this year, and this might be a little bit of a reach. But I think we're going to see Tariq Cohen come off the board sometime in the second round. It's a good pass catching option, adds a little bit of value in the return game. I know you only get points if they score, but he can score. He's a good player. I think Tariq Cohen makes this Rampage team better. It also gives him, a pass catching back on a team that's probably not going to win a whole lot of games. So he'll have some value, I think. You're up for the Broadway hose.
And right here, I think, God, Joe always gets set up for an old running back. Let's see.
This is what Joe gets for being middle of the pack and never sucking.
Yeah. Phew. I almost don't want to take a running back for him, but I mean, he needs one bad.
I mean, he's got Gurley and McKinnon. He's actually better at running back.
Oh, yeah, it's Gurley, yeah. Yeah, I think maybe he has to pass on running back at the moment.
So all the quarterbacks, there's Corey Davis, Josh Gordon, Larry Fitzgerald.
I think he's going to go a little off the rails, and he's going to take Corey Davis to shore up his wide receivers. I think that's the last wide receiver he needs to really give some oomph to that roster.
Yeah, if he goes this route, I would say don't draft another receiver until like 106 down there. And
but with what's there at running back, he's just going to throw it back. So he'll at least take his chance on a wide receiver there, I guess.
For sure. After that, These Nates comes up after grabbing Christian McCaffrey in the first round. This is a team that really needs a wide receiver. Was probably hoping for Corey Davis to be there. I think we mocked this exactly the same way last time. Larry Fitzgerald to Nate here in the second round. And Larry Fitzgerald just helps solidify his receiving core, and he can just throw him back next year or trade him to a contender later in the year, and you're cooking with gas. That's pretty much a dream scenario for Nate to get started with.
Yeah, that's a nice draft for him so far.
Tim is on the clock.
And for Tim here, oof, man.
You need me to scroll over?
He can't afford to not take a running back here, even though there are a lot of older options. I think this may be where we see that first kind of sighing pick of a Lamar Miller here.
Not bad.
Definitely not terrible, but you're hoping for a younger player there, I think.
Yeah, and this is like you're going to get off to a hot start with like Fournette and then Hyde and Miller, and then those guys are going to potentially lose their jobs and go that route. After quite the wait, AJ's back on the clock after taking Saquon with his first pick. The running backs have been pretty much depleted at this point, the ones that you really want. But he has a kind of a rare opportunity, to grab two players that can really just like nail down a position for him. And I think you could really see him do something interesting here, like have a Josh Gordon come off the board. Wide receiver for Cleveland, high upside. If he busts, whatever, you have a pick in the second round. Ideally, you're not picking in the first round next year because you got Barkley. You have Gordon there, and then now you can take like a young player with this next pick. I don't know if we talked about it on the show before, but when you're picking back-to-back like that, always take the older player first, because then you get the better keeper for the younger player. You're on the clock for him at 19.
Well, honestly, for what I'm thinking about, we should have switched it then, because I really think having that shot with Josh Gordon and then going with a Marshawn Lynch is like pretty much perfect.
Up. Connor with the audible, switching it up. And that's not a bad spot. And worst case scenario, you have a second and a third next year to go along with Saquon Barkley. So
it's really looking like AJ is going to have a really beautiful draft. This is one of the, I think, the third time we've mocked for him, and he's gotten great players with those 3 picks every time.
Yeah, and he's able to, because he has that first pick, he's able to kind of to not have to take a running back with all 3 of those. I mean, Barkley, Lynch, and Duke Johnson is plus a couple other guys is not going to be a bad group at all.
Yeah.
Adams on the clock at number 20. I'm picking for. Man, this is a team that really needs another running back. Jamal Williams apparently looks to be the guy in Green Bay, so that's.
It's a little disappointing for some of these teams, because I feel like some of the thirstiest teams for running backs are the ones stuck in this mold right after all those rookies go.
Yeah, and it's gonna be tough for.
Which
for
just
Adam.
means running backs are going to be completely depleted by round 3.
Yeah, I think you're going to see him go with a known quantity. A guy like Gio Bernard here, it's a little high, but it's full retail price. But Giovanni Bernard is a guy that is. I mean, he's probably an every week start in the UML for us. So Gio Bernard there in the 3rd round to Adam. You're up for Honuska.
I think after taking a stab at Corey Davis, although you completely dislike him, I think this is a great opportunity to grab Royce Freeman, and that ensures that Joe's got youth with those first 3 picks with Gurley there already.
Sorry, I was emailing. What was the pick?
Royce Freeman.
Royce Freeman.
And with that, I personally like Joe's draft quite a bit. I know you probably aren't as big of a fan, but
well, no, I mean, I don't like the idea of overpaying for players, and I think that's probably about fair for Royce Freeman. So, like, I know in a couple other mocks we had him sneaking into the 1st round, and I just wasn't a fan of that. Rabbit College Rampage come up, probably still looking for another running back here, and I think you'll see the old man do something a little off the beaten path here and reach on Deontay Foreman. And, that gives him a bunch of running backs, and you can, limp through with, Cohen and whoever he probably takes at 29. He can limp through with those guys and until Foreman healthy, be able to add another running back. He's going to work the waiver wire, so I think Deontay Foreman's actually a good pick for him. Worst case, he has a 3rd round pick next year. A Fozzie fullback drop, number 23. What are you going to do?
A pick for myself again.
That's right.
I think we had done this last time, but we'll go for it again. Demaryius Thomas here for a 3rd round pick.
Demaryius
wide receiver is
Demaryius Thomas, wide receiver, Denver. That's perfectly good value. I think, especially on a team that needs a receiver as much as yours does. That's a good pick. Carlo comes up at number 24, really, really needing running backs, but also needing a quarterback. I think he'll look at the running back situation and just resign himself and grab himself some Frank Gore action. Not sexy at all, but the dude's going to get like 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. And he really can't afford to only have those 3 backs, especially with McCoy having a suspension hanging over his head. Connor's picking for himself again.
And hell, how about I'll take Golden Tate again for another season.
That is a good start to a receiving core. Mike Evans, Demaryius Thomas, Golden Tate, and then whatever upside Tyler Lockett can give you, which could be good because there's not a whole lot of good receivers there in Seattle. So Pat comes up after just nailing his first 2 picks. I mean, absolutely just crushed them. He's got Phillip Rivers there. He's got Alex Smith. I mean, he'll probably think about a quarterback, but I don't see him doing it. He's going to need to grab himself a running back, and I think you'll see a nice pick of C.J. Anderson, running back from Carolina. have him come off the board right there. TJ Anderson, along with Geis. He kind of gives you that on whatever Mac, Geis, and Penny, whatever their shortcomings are. CJ Anderson is kind of a hedge against all that, and I think that's a good pick for Pat in this situation.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot.
Toad Point Trippers.
Toad Point Trippers are actually picking. I thought they skipped the draft.
Wait, mock draft trade. Go ahead.
Let's see. Right here, he needs that running back. And too bad Frank Gore's gone because could have had that old man again. I think for my dad right here, this may sting a little bit after doing the trade last season, but I think he's going to go with he's going to take back Isaiah Crowell, just like I took back Golden Tate. But I'm more excited about Golden Tate than I think he is about Crowell.
Yeah, and it's kind of a pick of necessity with Bell's contract situation and all that.
I do think he was a running back away from being really screwed. I will say, at least he's able to get Crowell here.
Yeah. Tim comes up at number 28 after having taken Lamar Miller kind of dejectedly with his first pick at number 28. Tim, I think, is very much aware that he's in a rebuild, and doesn't really want to put himself behind the eight ball by trying to like knock it out of the park this year and go after a championship. So I think you'll see him grab a rookie here, and I think it'll be Calvin Ridley, wide receiver for the Falcons. This is a guy who I think will be able to be he also doesn't have any receivers, so he needs one, right? Calvin Ridley will be an every week start for this team and for years to come. I think this is one of the most slam dunk picks. I think if he's on the board in the 4th round for Tim to take, you should just take Calvin. This is a great pick. This is, by the way, the pick he got for giving up Larry Fitzgerald. When you're rebuilding, that's exactly what you do. You get rid of Larry Fitzgerald, you get Calvin Ridley, and your team is now looking better for the next 5 years. You, sir, are picking for the Rampage after going Mixon, Cohen, Foreman with his first 3 picks.
And from here, I think, he could take that tight end too early here with Trey Burton. I wouldn't hate that, but I do think it's still too early.
Well, if he doesn't take him now, he's not getting one.
His wide. I just don't see him taking a wide receiver yet. I think he's got enough.
Yeah, he might not even take a wide receiver in this draft.
Yeah, so with taking running back. I think he's going to be it's the time for Trey Burton to go too high. But there's nothing wrong with that at this point in our league. So you got to take the players you want, and I think Trey Burton's a perfect guy to grab.
Trey Burton, tight end, Chicago, and we'll see if he's as good as we thought he was after watching the Philly special. The Broadway Joes are on the clock. You guys totally forgot about Tariq Cohen during the first mock. We might have, Carla. We might have.
He's been hyped a lot more recently.
Yeah, that's true. But I think we went like 6-7 rounds and we didn't pick him, which is just not accurate, not good.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Joe's on the clock. Joe needs running back still. I guess. I mean, Freeman, Gurley, McKinnon, Ware is not a horrible start. But I think Joe gets a lot of value here by grabbing Chris Carson from Seattle.
Yeah.
And I think Chris Carson is he's boom bust here, but if he hits, that's a great pick. If not, whatever.
Yep.
He'll have some value anyway. Good pick for Joe. Also, it seems like a very Joe player to take, too. Chris Carson just seems like a guy Joe would draft.
Well, Joe loves drafting players that have horrendous injuries, and it almost looks like his team's just fallen in half. So it's kind of the perfect pick because Carson could easily go down at any moment.
Adam is up, pick 31.
And he's so desperate at running back, he still needs to go for one, even with almost nothing here. Oof. But who? I think it's time to get a little daring. This is bad.
I mean, is there even a running back you can take?
The name that comes to mind for me is, I don't know. And he doesn't need a quarterback, which he could have been the first one to start that going. But at this rate, he doesn't need that at all. That's the one thing he has covered.
He needs a tight end.
Yeah, we could start the tight end train, and he could grab himself some George Kittle action.
George Kittle. I don't think he's going to like it.
That's rough.
I do not. I am very glad I'm not picking at number 31, Adam. I'll just say that. That is a tough spot to be picking at.
That's rough.
Alex comes up at 32, and what do you know? Also needs a tight end, but he needs a running back more. And he is a Packers fan, and Ty Montgomery will have some utility this year, I think.
See, that's the rough part for Adam, because that was the logical choice out of everything. But he's already got a running back in Green Bay, so to double up like that would not be that great, especially with that situation.
Yeah.
Talk about something we have no idea what's going to happen. And
yeah.
But Ty Montgomery gives Alex another player. Michelle, Montgomery, Drake might not be the worst group in the league. Might only be second worst. What about Nate?
Nate here, he's got Larry and he's got McCaffrey so far. He's had a pretty great draft. I think this could be a time for him to with the amount of great wide receivers still available, I think he's going to go ahead and take that Sammy Watkins action.
Well, Sammy Watkins action. That's not bad at that stage.
I don't hate it. He could definitely use another running back, but with what's best available, you can't pass up Sammy Watkins.
That's actually a pretty good receiving core. Fitzgerald, Watkins, Benjamin, and Kupp. That's not bad. But Nate, definitely don't take one at 36. AJ is on the clock at number 34. Is having just a killer draft. I think he's going to solidify his running back group here and get himself some Rex Burkhead out of New England. That's higher than you'd like to take him, but he'll give you some utility and kind of round out that running back group for you. So you're on the clock for him at 35.
And with here, I think with Joe Flacco on the way out, I mean, if he grabbed Jameis Winston here, his team is looking really, really nice.
Jameis Winston is a great pick because he can use Flacco in the early weeks at that OP spot when he's still going to be playing. I
think Carlo would be like really angry at the moment because I feel like he was really hoping Winston would fall to him.
Man, that is a great start to the draft for AJ.
I feel like he's got one of that first pick tournament. It really does wonders for you.
Yeah,
when you're in that tournament, don't give up because if you get that, your team can look like this within a season.
Goff and Winston at quarterback, Barkley, Duke Johnson, and whoever at running back. I'm talking 2019. Gordon, Eric. He needs to get some receivers with he needs receivers probably with the rest of his picks. But this is a good start, man. This is this takes AJ. AJ almost made the playoffs last year.
Team. Yeah, he could definitely make the playoffs with that, depending on how it goes.
And that'll be AJ's last pick in this mock, by the way. Since we're only going to go, I guess, to 8 rounds because that's what Carlo wanted.
I may have
mock
to stop
for his first big tournament
depending on the time.
Comes up, and I'm picking for Nate, right?
Yep.
Okay. Nate, I think at this point, he's grabbed himself a running back. He's got an okay group. I think he'd like to improve it, but there's really nobody worth taking at this stage, honestly. I think you're going to see Nate do something that he should have done a long time ago and grab himself some Baker Mayfield, quarterback for Cleveland. Gets him that second quarterback. A fifth-round keeper for a quarterback is good, by the way. Most of them are kept in the third. You can see that. But Baker Mayfield there in the 5th round. So I think we're actually kind of right in the middle of our our quarterback run and our tight end run. So we'll kind of have to see what happens here. You're up for Alex.
Yeah, and I think Alex maybe he has no tight ends right now.
No tight ends on his roster now.
Oh wow! So I think he's definitely going to go for one here, and I think he's going to really be thinking about being young. I don't think it's necessarily the best choice, but it will be in the future. I think he might go with Mike Gesicki right here for Miami.
Gesicki.
Which could work out in the future. It could be a nice pick.
Yeah, the Hayden Hurst thing would make sense, but I mean the guy's a little older and like he might be like 30 by the time Alex's team is competitive again. So Broadway Joe's Joe comes up. He's grabbed a couple running backs. He's got Gurley, Freeman, Carson, McKinnon. Where I don't think he needs to grab one of those bums now. Joe needs a quarterback, and Joe is gonna get Josh Rosen from Arizona, and this is a great pick for Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm liking it.
That is a really good start for Joe too.
Yeah.
I mean, he has Gurley, Freeman, Carson, Rosen. You're up for Tim here. You got Lamar Miller and then Calvin Ridley.
I think this could be a time where he's really looking for rookies, and he tries one of the later rookie backs. I think Hines could be somebody he may be looking for. Somebody who's kind of a sneaky, really questionable pick. But hey, if he loves him and he works out, he's gonna look back on that and have a nice keeper.
Yeah, for sure. I think Nyheim Hines will be like a decent pro.
I think for fantasy he'll be great.
Yeah, and
he's not that special, but
I'd have considered a wide receiver there as well. But Nyheim Hines is a good player. Also offers a little upside in the return game too because he's really fast. Mm-hmm. Come up after grabbing Crowell in the with their first pick back at 27 or whatever it is. Lev Bell, Crowell, Chris Thompson, James White. He's got a ton of receivers. He's got a ton of tight ends. He's got 2 quarterbacks. He's got to take another running back here. He'll probably be a little miffed that he missed out on Hines. Tim kind of reached. I mean, it's a little bit of a reach, but you do what you got to do.
But I think that's another good spot for my dad. Hines would have been another really easy pick to make.
Yeah, for sure. I think. Damn, this is brutal down here.
Maybe what about Bilal Powell? We haven't heard his name yet.
Bilal Powell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a boring pick.
Although in training camp, I don't think there really is about him as they used to be.
Yeah, you might, Bray. You know what? We're going to go with something a little off the beaten path. Corey Clement, running back for Philadelphia. I think the dude's going to have a pretty decent sized role, and I think your dad's going to be privy to that. I think he at that 49 pick, but I think Corey Clement is going criminally low in drafts right now, and I think this will be a decent pick there in the the 5th round.
Yep.
Keith Wellington, 41.
He still needs a quarterback, yes?
He sure do.
So he's definitely taking one here. He's probably really wondering if the last pick was where he should have taken one because with Jameis Winston gone, and now you have maybe the considered best 2 rookie quarterbacks of this year. He's got to go with somebody, and as much as it's going to be a slow start, I think Sam Darnold's the no-brainer of what's left for rookies. And I think he should be happy with that.
He can use one of his receivers. He can select one of his receivers until Darnold gets the job. Really rough, though. Something happens to Eli Manning, and he is super. Maybe even look at grabbing another quarterback later, like Case Keenum, maybe at pick 61 or something.
Yeah, that's who I was debating. Does he want somebody for right now, or does he want one of those rookies? So if he gets the chance to do both, I think that would definitely be useful for him.
For sure. Ray comes up at number 42. Been kind of a wait for him. He needs to take a running back here to go along with Coleman, Ingram, and Johnson. It's a shame there aren't any good ones on the board. Yeah, I think you'll see Bilal Powell come off here. Big Ray has owned him in the past, if I'm not mistaken, and I mean, you're not going to keep him, but you need the depth while Ingram's hurt, or suspended. Yeah. So it's not a sexy pick, but he'll probably get you 10 points a game, and that's great in this league. You're up it for the Muppets.
Oh boy, how can I ruin Doug's team? Let's see.
Who had Alex?
Kicker. You're good at tight end. You still need wide receivers, so let's look at that. There's still plenty of really good ones here for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a big fan of this, but I think Robert Woods could be a guy to come off the board.
Robert Woods, yeah, he's one of he's another one of those sexy players or unsexy players. No one's going to ooh and ah when you take him, but he's going to be like a top 25 wide receiver.
I mean, the year he had, it's clear that he has great chemistry with Goff. I don't see him going away, even though there is other talent there.
And I think Adam will be very pleased that none of those wide receivers that he probably wanted have really gone off the board. And he'll run the card up to draft DJ Moore, wide receiver from Carolina.
Not bad for what his options are.
Yeah, he's going to be a little shitty at running back, but he's just got to get some talented players on this team. Pain Train, 45. Does he go back and get Hayden Hurst now that he has the has another pick?
I mean, he doesn't need another one. But let's see. I really would like to see him with another running back, but at this point, he may be better off going. How many wide receivers does he have? Does he still need a wide receiver?
He's got Cooper, Meredith, and Edelman suspended, so he does need another receiver.
Yeah, he definitely needs another guy. I think the value is too good at the moment. I think for Alex, I don't know if it's exactly his speed, but I think it's probably the best choice for him here. He needs somebody really stable to get him through those first 4 weeks, and I think he goes with Pierre Garçon here.
It's not a bad pick, and we all know Alex likes to draft players he knows are good. So, and Pierre Garçon definitely fits that category. The good thing is though he gets to pick again right now, which is what's that?
I forgot that it's your pick. I was gonna say you could probably go looking for some of those rookies that are left.
Yeah, I think he'll really piss off my brother here, and grab Michael Gallup.
Ooh.
Wide receiver from Dallas. I think that's great value down here in the 7th round, and gives him a receiver he can start every week, and that kind of bolsters that receiving group a little bit with Garçon and Gallup. Really, really great stuff there. Adam comes back up on the clock here, pick 47.
He's got a rough spot to draft from. And it definitely shows. Which is not useful because he's got a lot of holes in his roster. I think after going with wide receiver, he still needs to look at running back, even though there's almost nothing left. I think maybe he takes a stab at one of the talked about rookies that doesn't really have the job and likely won't get it, but could. Or you know what? I think Javarius Allen would be an okay pick here. I think he's going to see the field. He's going to be kind of the passing back.
They really like him in that role in Baltimore.
Yeah, so I think that could be a solid pick for what's left and what's here at this point.
Yeah, you'll be picking in the 7th round next year too, Adam. So, just so you know, the Petersburg Penguins come up fuming about this Michael Gallup situation. Which, by the way, Michael Gallup totally would have been the pick back in round 5, where Nike Hines went. That totally would have been the pick. Let's be completely real with ourselves. Tim needs a tight end, and he's going to be kind of pleased as punch that a lot of them haven't gone. He's going to grab himself some Hayden Hurst right here. And suddenly, this is actually like a really good start to the season. Lamar Miller, yeah, whatever. But then Ridley, Hines, and Hurst is that's a solid little nucleus right there. Plus, he's got quarterbacks. He's got one really good running back. So that's a good spot. Toad Point Trippers, round 7.
I think after he missed out on Hines earlier, he's realizing he's got to look for that guy. He took a stab at it with Corey Clement, but he wants to double up, and I think he is going to take Kalen Balazs here.
Kalen Balazs. Different type of player, but, I mean, Frank Gore can't play forever, so.
Mm-hmm.
Kalen Balazs definitely, I mean, he could be really good if something happens to Gore or, like he finally realizes he's a million years old. The next pick is Fozzie Fullbacks, and I get to make a pick for you for once.
Oh.
Let's see here. Looks like we've kind of rectified this wide receiver situation. Could probably use a tight end, but with Hurst just going, see you doing that. Got your quarterback situation taken care of with Tom Brady.
I do need another running back. That Tate pick may have been a mistake.
Maybe, but the running back you were going to get there wasn't going to be better than Golden Tate.
True.
I think you're going to vomit in your mouth a little bit.
Why?
Because
what do you got for me?
Because of the risk, but I think you're going to grab yourself some Austin Eckler here. He's got utility even when Gordon's healthy, and we all know Gordon's not always healthy. So I think Austin Eckler, you're not going to be like jumping up and down for the pick, but I think he's for an additional running back with that. Ideally, you're never playing. I think you could do a hell of a lot worse. You are on the clock for Tim at 51. Is he going to continue this great draft he's having?
I think even amazingly, it was rougher to start than it is now. I think he's found really nice pieces with some of these later picks that he didn't really have the option for at that second round. How is he at quarterback?
Stafford and Garoppolo.
So that's fine. And he's got Tyler Eifert, so he has no need for another. I guess he could go either another wide receiver or another running back. I think he could take a stab at Anthony Miller. People are raving about him at camp.
Yeah, he made a really cool high point catch the other day. I saw.
I think your brother, if this were to be what happened, I think your brother's going to have some really nice wide receivers in the future.
Yeah, Miller, Ridley, and I'm sure he'll grab a couple more.
He grabbed. Oh no, he didn't grab Gallup. That's right.
Yeah, no, he probably would have, but
he would have.
Ridley, Gallup, Miller, nice group. Grab a college rampage, come up at 52, and run the card up to take Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, that's definitely your dad.
That's the easiest pick I've made in this entire mock.
Yeah, he'd be happy with that for sure.
Like that is, and the round 8 too. That's a really solid keeper.
Yeah, that's where he should be going after what we've seen from him.
Yeah,
I think he will be good, but it's going to take some time. You're going to really have to sit with him a couple of years.
Yeah. Now Joe is up. He's got some receivers. He's got some running backs. He drafted a quarterback already. Could use a guy to start from week 1. Sam Bradford's still out there. What do you think he's going to do here?
It wouldn't be. I mean, but does he really need to care about this year? That's the thing.
No.
And with the way he's drafted,
all those young players.
Yeah, I think he needs to.
Do you think about tight end?
That's definitely something.
I mean, Goddard there's not really much left there, though.
Yeah. Well, there is, but they're kind of questionable.
Yeah, Ricky Seals-Jones, he could pair with Josh Rosen.
Anthony Miller would have been a nice pick for him here.
Yeah. I think he needs a running back, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's got to be running back. How about the future replacement for Gio Bernard here?
Mark Walton.
Mark Walton. I don't hate that.
No, me neither. And, if he's not doing anything for a couple weeks, cut his ass,
Yeah.
And, look at him next year. Adam comes up, pick number 54. Made a couple not that sexy picks with his last couple. Definitely needs running backs, needs receivers. Let's see who's around for receivers left. Nothing really, to be perfectly honest. I think you'll see Doug Martin come off the board here. Adam's not going to like it very much. This is a rough spot to be picking.
It's a known name. It's a known name, so
he'll get some work. They didn't pay him all that money for nothing. But man, that is rough as we hit the 2.5 hour mark on our podcast.
Holy crap! Has anybody doing a little poll here? Has anybody watched from start to finish with us, or has it just been joining and leaving and then coming back?
Oh man, Pain Train on the clock. And then the next pick's the last one. So
for him, he just went wide receiver.
Carlo is still watching.
Carlo says he has been. I think.
Woof.
Yeah, I think he might take a shot at Kenneth Dixon. I think he had tried to own him earlier, and he's a name he'll remember. It's kind of a little early, but I'm sure he'll piss some people off. I think some people really like him.
Yeah, and that's value too. If he pans out, that's a great keeper. So
yeah.
Nate comes up with his last pick of the mock, number 56 overall. Maybe we should do one more after this, just so Steve can get one pick into the mock. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll go to Steve.
Okay, we'll go to Steve and then we'll end it.
Yeah.
He's Nate's number 56. Nate needs a tight end. There's not really anything to be had, to be perfect. You know what? Ricky Seals-Jones, perfect pick here for Nate. It's far from a sure thing. Former college wide receiver, but he needs a second tight end. And, Gronk plus anybody is going to be like a top 5 tight end group. So I think Ricky Seals-Jones is a nice move. And we'll finish it up with one more pick from Esteban.
Wow, this is his third pick of the entire draft.
Well, he has all those great keepers from rounds 3 to 7.
Well, yeah. So I'd say his weakest position at the moment would be his tight ends are pretty much set up. His quarterbacks are set up. I suppose it would still be his running back isn't terrible either. He could either go wide receiver or running back here.
Cook, Howard, Ronald Jones, and Matt Breida at running back.
But for what's available, I feel like wide receiver has more value at the moment.
I agree.
I'm sure he was really, really upset about Anthony Miller.
Yeah, 2 picks before whatever it was.
I think a really kind of sneaky pick here could be Marquise Goodwin. I think that would be a nice pick at wide receiver.
Yeah, I think he's one of those players. He's another one of those unsexy players, but I mean, the dude's like one of the fastest people on earth.
Yeah.
So
and I think we're going to see a really nice San Francisco offense this season. We kind of got a taste of it towards the end of the season, but I think we're really going to be impressed.
And I don't think their defense is that good, so I think they'll be trailing and chasing points. So that's always good too.
I think that's definitely an offense to own.
All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, this is a record, right, for us?
Carlo wants to go to 61, but Carlo, sorry, buddy, we're not going to do that. We will do one more podcast, I think, before the draft, and then that'll be it. We'll do the NFC and then maybe another mock, another 2.5 hour podcast. Anyway, let me go ahead and turn off my screen share. Thanks so much, Connor, for taking the time out. Guys, we'll see you at the draft on Saturday the 25th at 3 o'clock. We need chairs. So if anybody has chairs, please bring chairs. All right. Until next time, konnichiwa, bitches.